Howdy folks, hope you're all having a good one, and welcome to the annual War Thunder video. Yes, I know that has become something of a meme in the last couple of years, but lately it is actually true, on account of my still not having access to my War Thunder account. Yeah, thanks Gaijin. No, don't mention it. But don't ask me how I got this replay. But I did. This is Silver Phoenix. And as best as I can work out, he's flying the F-5C Tiger. I say as best as I can work out because there are actually two versions of this aircraft in the game, the F-5C and the F-5A. But the F-5C is the one with the refueling probe, which this one has. So I'm going to go with F-5C. Also, the naming conventions of this thing do get kind of confusing for a lot of people because when you say the Northrop F-5, which this thing is, people will think, oh right, yeah, the F-5 Freedom Fighter. And other people will say, no, isn't it the F-5 Tiger? And then other people might even say, but isn't it the F-5 Tiger too? And all three are correct. The original versions of this thing, which began design in the 1950s, was known as the F-5 Freedom Fighter, the A and B variant. The C variant, which this one is a Vietnam era aircraft, and it was known as the Skoshi Tiger. More on that in a bit. Then they skipped the D variant entirely, for reasons which remain unclear to this day, and went straight to the F-5E, which they called the Tiger II, not to be confused with the F-5E that they called the Tiger III. No idea what the Tiger I was, that's not clear. Then things got even more confusing with the introduction of the F-5G, which was also known as the F-20 Tiger Shark. Not the F-5, no, it's the F-20 now. Let's just say nobody ever seems to know what this aircraft is called from one moment to the next, but we're just going to call it the F-5 and stick with that to save confusion. The one thing about this aircraft, in all of its types and designations, that nobody denies with the exception of the US Air Force, is that the F-5 is a very good aircraft. But for some bizarre reason, this aircraft could just never catch a break, because despite passing every single test, usually with flying colours that the US Air Force imposed upon it, they just kept rejecting it. The US Navy actually expressed interest in this thing at one point too. They wanted a smaller, lighter fighter that could operate from their escort carriers, which were too small to operate and maintain the big jets that were being flown off the fleet carriers. And Northrop said, oh yeah, we can do that. We've got this F-5 in development, and the US Navy said, oh, that looks really, really nice. And so Northrop went ahead and continued development, and then the US Navy phased out all of its escort carriers. Didn't need it anymore. It's probably important to point out, by the way, that the F-5 never went into development as a result of a requirement issued by either the US Army, Navy or Air Force. It was 100% entirely privately funded by the Northrop Corporation. They basically identified a gap in the market and thought, we'll try to fill that ourselves, because everybody was building big, heavy, expensive jet fighters, which is the exact opposite of what the F-5 is. So the Phoenix going after his first actual target here, and it's a big, heavy, expensive jet fighter, exactly the opposite of what the F-5 is. It's an enemy F-4 Phantom. The F-5 does carry missiles, as you can hear. A pair of AIM-9E Sidewinders. They're alright. They're not great, you probably shouldn't rely on them. These are like Vietnam era Sidewinders. But it does have a pair of 20mm cannon, and the guns are going to be this thing's bread and butter. The version of the F-5 that Silver Phoenix is flying here, the F-5C, was the first variant to have countermeasures, chaff and flares. And at this kind of battle rating, that is a huge advantage to have. Unlike certainly this aircraft's contemporaries, like the MiG-21 over there he's closing in on. Didn't have flares, so its only defence against the heat-seeking missiles to dodge and hope that it missed. Also didn't have a radar warning receiver, so you could get a radar lock on a MiG-21 and it wouldn't even know it. Despite the US Air Force basically having no interest whatsoever in this aircraft, with the exception of certain highly specific circumstances, the F-5 did very well on the export market, which probably isn't surprising, given the niche that it was designed to fill. You know, in many ways you could say that the F-5 was a couple of decades ahead of its time. Oh, that was close. We've got a lock against the Tornado there, but the Tornado does carry an extensive countermeasure suite, so the Sidewinder failed to connect. Circling in on the MiG-23 there now. There goes the second Sidewinder. Oh, and he's got a kill. Nice. But yes, because the F5 was basically the antithesis of the big, heavy, expensive jet fighters that everybody else was designing at the time. Well, I think I say everybody. Basically, I mean the big Western militaries. There were other air forces who were designing small light fighters like the F5, the Italian G91, for example, perfect example. But basically, the USSR and all of the big NATO militaries were designing stuff like the MiG-23 or the F-4 Phantom. Oh, beautiful, beautiful shot. Good job. There's his second air kill, and also one assist to go with the 2 ground targets. You know what? Things are getting a bit exciting. Let's talk about the design and development of the F5 and its competition and the reason why it did so well in the export market, but failed horribly in its own domestic market. We'll leave that for the moment and just concentrate on the action. Because right now, and I might be mistaken, oh, incoming missile, oh, there's the dodge, and holy shit, he just mowed the lawn. But yes, I might be mistaken, but it does kind of look like he's in a bit of a 3 or 4 on 1, and he's not on the side with the numbers advantage, although he's about to start. I think he just nailed a BTR on the ground there, and there goes another one. An enemy F5. How many of them are on his tail? Oh yeah, at least 2, including an F5E. I didn't even realise the F5E was in the game, but well, clearly it is. Fortunately, this thing is fast. Unfortunately, so's the F5E. I guess it's he just went supersonic. I guess it's a question of how much fuel and ammo the guy in his tail is carrying. But he does seem to be opening the distance. Look at that wingtip, the one on the right. The other half of that wingtip is buried in the ground about 5 kilometres back. He's not shaken the F5E on his tail, although it has stopped shooting at him. It hasn't launched any more missiles, so it's obviously out of Sidewinders. I think it might be out of 20mm cannon shells. He's going for the ram, isn't he? He is. He is 100% definitely going for the ram. Here it comes. Request denied. That F5E's a persistent bugger though, he's not giving up easily. Here he comes again. Oh, dodged. And oh dear, his ego appears to be writing checks that his body can't cash. I believe we call that one a mission kill. No wait, no, a manoeuvrability kill. That's the correct for. Oh wow, it looks like landing gear optional. Well, this is one way of slowing down. Any landing you can walk away from and all that. I don't see anything wrong with this landing. It's the finest jingle landing I've seen this year. So, what's that? That's 4 ground kills, 2 air kills and an assist. Not bad for a light tactical day superiority fighter jet that only carries 2 missiles. Well, while he's getting back in the air and back into the action, let's talk a little bit more about the operational history of this actually really good fighter jet. It first entered service with the United States Air Force in 1964, although in extremely limited numbers and with an extremely limited purpose. They were actually employed by the Combat Crew Training Squadron at Williams Air Force Base, and its only role was the training of pilots and ground crew not for the US Air Force but for US Air Force customer nations, like Norway for example. Now it won't have escaped your attention that 1964 means the Vietnam War was going on, and the US Air Force was under significant pressure at the time to field capable combat aircraft, not just for the air superiority but also for the ground attack role. Something that the F5 proved to be actually pretty good at, despite being developed as a light tactical day superiority fighter. 12 aircraft were delivered for trials, which they passed with flying colours, and were then modified with probe and drogue aerial refueling equipment, which you can actually see here mounted on the left side of the front fuselage of the F5C that Silver Phoenix is flying. They were given improved instruments and they redesignated the F5C. This is where the name Scotia Tiger for the F-5C comes from, because Scotia Tiger was the name of the evaluation project that they were all subjected to. Over the next 6 months, these things flew more than 2,600 operational combat missions, and they only lost 9 aircraft, which was a phenomenal success rate by anybody's standards. These things were so successful and so good in their role, which, remember, ground attack wasn't even the role they were designed for. And let's not forget, because of the nature of their design, they were substantially cheaper, not just to purchase, but also to operate, and significantly easier to maintain, and able to fly from much, much rougher airstrips than basically anything else in the US Air Force's combat inventory. And they were so good that within a year and a half, the US Air Force had written them all off and transferred them all to the Republic of Vietnam Air Force instead. Because reasons. I don't know. I've got nothing. He's got tone for the Sidewinder, but he doesn't have a great angle. Oh, there's the radar warning receiver. Again, something that other contemporaries of this thing didn't necessarily have. And also, another good feature of the F-5C, well, the F-5 in general, is it tended to have a much, much lower heat signature. Which means that in combination with countermeasures like the flares that he's currently ditching, it made it significantly harder for an enemy aircraft with infrared guided missiles to actually get and maintain a target lock. He's right in the thick of it again, isn't he? MiG-23 preemptively dumping flares there just as he gets tone. He's switching to the 20mm cannons, 2 of them in the nose of this thing. He's in danger of overshooting here, and he has overshot, but it's fine because the MiG-23 just fell victim to a heat seeker fired by one of his teammates, the A5C over there. Remember, kids, when Mr. Missile has left the launch rail, oh, good kill, he is no longer your or anybody else's friend. Now that A5 up there, is that the one who just got the friendly fire kill on the MiG-23? It might be. I'm not seeing any other A5s around. That's actually an export version of the Chinese Q5 sold to Pakistan. Looks like the Sidewinder missed. He's got one left, but he's having much, much more success with the 20mm cannon. Does he have any surviving teammates left, by the way? Because I haven't seen a friendly aircraft in a long time. Is he seriously the last one left alive on his team? You know, I think he is. I haven't seen a friendly aircraft since the RTB, and I certainly haven't... Oh, the A5 just crashed. There's still plenty of enemies to go around, though. He's got the one Sidewinder left. But, like I said, he's been having a lot more success with the guns. He's definitely got no shortage of enemies here, though. And, oh, very nearly one less. This thing really is a superb dogfighter. Because it is so small and light and agile, it is just really, really good in a knife fight. There goes the Sidewinder. It doesn't look like it's maintained lock. Nope, I don't think he's got him. He's down to the guns. But, well, I mean, you know, as we've seen, that's not exactly a bad thing with Silver Phoenix at the controls. I've lost track of the number of enemies that are on him. Oh, he took a hit. He definitely took a hit there. He's lost a flap. Well, that could have been a lot worse. I mean, it's not good. It's a control surface, but it's not critical, and it could have been significantly worse. Oh, that was close. Oh, that's close too. He didn't leave half the wing buried in the ground this time. But yeah, a few more inches and that could have set a fuel tank on fire. And for the J70. Oh, he scored hits. I don't know if there's anything critical. Not like an engine hit. It is saying he's severely damaged him. Let's hope that proves to be significant. He's taken more hits himself, but I'm looking at the paper doll down there on the bottom left and I'm not seeing anything significant. So he's basically, with the exception of the loss of that one flap, that control surface, he's pretty much still operational. There's that's actually another J70. This is another Chinese aircraft. It's basically an export license-built version of the MiG-21. which is extremely quick in a straight line. It's faster than the F5, so he's not going to catch it. And that's not the one that he just hit, that's another one. So, I'm trying to work out just exactly, because I'm pretty sure that he is now, and for some time has been, the last surviving member of his team. I'm trying to figure out how many enemies he's fighting. We know there are 2 J7s, and I'm pretty sure there may be at least another 1 enemy, possibly 2. Okay, the J7 whose engine he hit has just performed a soft landing. Whether or not he actually made it to his airbase, I'm not sure. He might be out of the fight. Either way, I think it's high time Silver Phoenix did the same. Now he's no longer in immediate danger of getting shot down. Looks like he's bugging out and going for a rearm, repair and reload. But yeah, the F5, despite passing every combat evaluation it was subjected to by the US Air Force, and despite performing above and beyond the call of duty with the US Air Force, the US Air Force had no interest in this thing whatsoever. At one point, the US Army actually expressed interest in these things. They really liked them. They would have loved to have some. Unfortunately for the US Army, they're just not allowed to operate fixed-wing aircraft unless the US Air Force says they can. I mean, I'm simplifying matters massively here, but that's the basic gist of it. And in the case of the F5, the US Air Force said nope. So, yeah, I mean, this aircraft really just could not ever catch a break, and it was mostly down to the US Air Force, who just insisted that they didn't want a light tactical fighter. So no thank you, we want our big heavy expensive F4 Phantoms and F-15 Eagles. And then, ironically, more or less at the point where the Northrop Corporation had decided screw it, we're just going to focus on the export market, where the F5 did pretty well. The US Air Force submitted a requirement for a light tactical fighter project that would eventually become the F-16 Fighting Falcon. Northrop actually had a go at entering a prototype into the competition. It wasn't the F5, I think they'd learned their lesson at that point. But they submitted the P600 prototype, which failed. Obviously the F-16 Fighting Falcon won the contest. But it wasn't the end of the P600, because it was developed into the YF-17 experimental fighter, which itself evolved into the F-18 Hornet. So they at least had some domestic success with that, actually. Quite a lot of domestic success with that. The F-18 is an amazing aircraft. Well anyway, Silver Phoenix, rearmed, repaired, reloaded, back in the air. And he is definitely the last player left alive on his team. And I suspect he has been for quite some time, perhaps as much as the last 10 minutes. The only thing I'm not sure of, how many enemies? It's difficult to keep track. I think there's 2. Pretty sure there are still 2 J7s. Those are the Chinese MiG-21s. But there may be more. I think there might be 3. There may be as many as 4. But there's definitely at least 2. And they're right in front of him. He's just having a quick look around to make sure there's nobody above him and diving on his ass. Because ain't nobody likes that. So he's scored 4 actual kills here, but he's forced another 2 down. So I'm going to say, because those are manoeuvre kills, they count, I'm going to say he's actually on 6 kills. And he's going to need to score at least 2 more in order to come out of this one on the winning side. Eyes on a swivel here, looking for those enemies. There's 1 or 2 spotted in front of him, but I'm not sure of their altitude. There we go! Missile, missile, missile! There go the flares. At least I think they were flares. I didn't hear the radar warning receiver going off, so I'm assuming that was a heat seeker. And I was wondering at first, what is the MiG-23 playing at? It's just flying away from him in a straight line, and then I realised, well actually this is an AIM-9E Sidewinder. I'm not exactly sure what its effective range was, but I think it was as little as 5 kilometres at best, which means, yeah, that was actually a smart move. He just powered on out of there and got out of engagement range. He knows his enemy. He knows that the F5 doesn't have any radar guided missiles like the AIM-7 Sparrow, so yep, that was the smart move. It's also leading Silver Phoenix towards his allies, like the J7 up there. And I'm pretty sure there is another J7 around, although I haven't seen it. Now the J7 is inside Heatseeker range. Checking his ass, looking for the MiG-23, can't see him. He's got tone. J7's in a dive. It's not an amazing target aspect, but it's better than nothing, and it looks like he has failed to maintain lock. I'm not seeing a third aircraft. I don't know what happened to the other J7, but it's not around here. MiG-23's on his ass again. I mean, you know, the F5 does have a smaller than average heat signature, but that doesn't mean you deliberately want to be given your afterburners to an enemy aircraft armed with heat seekers. Here they come. Oh, he's dodged that one. He's looping around trying to get the J7. The MiG-23 has overshot. This is going to be dangerous. He's got him. Oh, mid-air collision. No! Oh, he got the J7. And then all he had to do to win was kill what apparently is a completely stock MiG-23, which would be easy for an F5C. 5 actual kills, 1 assist, 4 ground kills, 2 maneuver kills. And it just wasn't enough. It just needed 1 more. But I guess it was just not to be. Well, anyway, that was Silver Phoenix in the F5C. Light tactical fighter developed by and sold mostly just to anybody other than the US Air Force by the Northrop Corporation. That was this year's War Thunder video. I hope you all enjoyed it. And as always, take care. And I'll catch you next time.